Welcome back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series, our last for this school year. We've had a great year so far, and we're super thankful for all the students and staff who have tuned in to make this program what it is. And we hope there was one student out there, one teacher, one classroom that was able to take something away from the program this year. But we can say all that again. We do have one more program left here today with our special guest, Hannah Lee from the Cleveland Browns, and we're super excited to hear from her. So if this is your first time tuning in for the program today, well, what is Before the Snap? Well, what we decided and what we wanted to do here at the Hall of Fame was give high school students, college students, young professionals an opportunity to learn what it takes to have a career in and around the NFL. Instead of looking at all the different possibilities that are out there, we wanted to focus in on each week a different career. And we've had people in media, public relations, communications, social media. Today, we've got community relations and youth football, and just showcase, what all the different jobs are out there and some of the things that you can do during a job or a career in and around the NFL. So if you've already tuned in with us before, you definitely know what you're going to hear today, and you're in store for another excellent program. Here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's our mission to honor the greats of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made all of our Hall of Famers the best football minds, players that there are, but it made them great men as well, great people off the field. It can make you a great student and can make myself and anybody else here today a great member of the organization that they're a part of. And you'll hear how these values pop up today. And it just goes to show how important that they are and can make you the best well-rounded individual that you can be. Before we get started, as always, some thank yous I'd like to pass out to all of those educators, professors, teachers out there that sent this out to the program, watching in their classrooms right now or watching us down the road. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a small part of your students' learning experience during this school year. Secondly, students, we got to thank you. This program is put in place for you. I know when I was in college, I wish I had the opportunity to take advantage of this and hear from industry professionals about what it takes to have a career in and around the game of football. So as always, if you have a question, we want to hear from you. In the chat, you're going to put your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead and ask your question. Nathan's sitting in another room watching, waiting for all those to come in. So make sure you get your questions in as soon as possible. We want to get through as many questions as we can today. Now, I've got a lot ready to go, but as I always say, nobody wants to hear me ask questions. This is the opportunity for students to get their questions answered by somebody who currently works in the NFL. So again, if you have your questions in the chat function there, go ahead or in the live chat, go ahead and put your name, the school you go to, and then go ahead and type out your question. If you don't have a question, just let us know where you're watching from. We want to see how many awesome schools, colleges, and universities we can have who are tuned in today. And then lastly, I need to thank our special guests today who are lucky and grateful to be joined by Hannah Lee. It's a former collegiate soccer athlete at Ashland University, my alma mater too. So this one is extra special for me as a fellow Eagle. She was a 3-year captain and a starter that battled multiple injuries and quickly realized she could help others and leave this world a better place than she found it through working in sports. Graduated Ashland with a degree in marketing and used it to follow her passion, impacting the next generation of student athletes as a youth football coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. It's her goal to provide the youth and high school football athletes in Northeast Ohio opportunities that assist in their growth and development, create year-round programming for them to succeed on and off the field, remove financial barriers to allow all athletes to succeed, and promote a healthy social, emotional, mental, and physical development so all the boys and girls in the communities, especially here in Northeast Ohio, have the opportunity to succeed using football as a vehicle. So Hannah, I'd like to welcome you to Before the Snap.
Awesome. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you for the great intro. And if I can be a resource, provide any type of background on my experience, my history, and how I got here, more than happy to do so. And just excited to answer any questions you guys might have and, leave this place better than I found it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being a part today. No pressure, but this is the last one of the school year. So, it's the final episode. So no pressure there. But we just kind of want to start out, you hear youth football coordinator. So obviously, you think youth sports, camps, clinics, games, everything like that. It's kind of the stereotypical, thought when you think of somebody working in youth football and youth sports. But can you tell everybody kind of what your day-to-day looks like now in the off season? Because I know you're doing a lot of awesome stuff with girls flag football right now. And then what it looks like during the season and kind of how the two differ.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times when you hear youth football, you think of little tiny kids running around, but we actually cover a broad audience. So anything from kindergarten through 8th grade all the way through high school. And then we do a little bit of work with colleges as well, whether that be high school showcases, girls high school flag. So we cover a broad audience, get to develop a lot of really cool relationships, network a ton. But right now in the off season is actually our on season, which most people wouldn't think, but right now being in the off season with players just now getting back into the building, kind of getting back into that workout routine. We are in full gear with youth football camps. So we are planning our youth football camps for the summer and June. And we actually just went live with those today. So if you guys are interested in getting any nieces or nephews signed up, please do so. But we have a lot of camps in June. And then in July, we do a thing called Legends Clinics. So the Haslams and Cleveland Browns have done a great job of implementing synthetic turf fields across Northeast Ohio. And we actually go back to those fields every single year and we put on a free 2-hour camp for the community, the kids in that school, and the coaches. And it really just allows us to be able to get our hands all around the Northeast Ohio, get our boots on the ground and just develop those relationships, get kids out playing. And right now I'm solely focused on girls high school flag football. So we've done a great job in Northeast Ohio of growing girls high school flag. We started in 2021 with 9 teams, which was last year. And then in 2022, or in 21, we had, I think, 2 teams. And it was like a really small championship that we did. And then in 2022, we had 9 teams. And then this year for 2023, we grew to 30 teams. They span from an hour away to down the road. So we're really excited to have our championship on May 1st. And if you guys are interested in starting girls high school flag at your high school, or you know somebody that might be interested, go ahead and email us at youthfootball@clevelandbrowns.com. We just want to get girls out playing. If you've never played organized sports before, like this is a great opportunity for you to get involved with it, find a new sport that you might thrive in.
I think it's obviously cool that you're doing all this. You know, you've had an impact on us here in Canton, making the trip, bringing some teams down to play during our Hall of Fame game. Like we were talking before, the NFL social team, we're sending clips out of the halftime game that we were playing. So obviously it sounds like it's a passion project for you as well, and something that's important for our community. But can you talk a little bit about, you know, what goes on in the background and what it takes to do something like that? Because you're like a GM of a team or a commissioner of an organization, to where you're running everything from A to Z, from the games to the budgeting to all these different aspects. So how important is it to take everything that you learned, whether it be in school or through your different experiences in professional sports, and be able to apply that to something like creating girls high school football, flag football? Because it's, you know, there's so much that goes into it, and we could probably spend all day just talking about what it takes to start and get a league off the ground. But you know, kind of at that 10,000 foot view, what's it take to do that? What are some of the things you have to worry about on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I would say a big part is obviously it's not something that we've done before in Ohio. So just learning, having a lot of conversations with coaches and commissioners of different leagues and high school coaches that are coaching those girls in the spring, but also at the same time listening to the athletes. So listening to those high school girls, what they need, if they don't have like the means or the funds to be able to start a program, how do we implement it? How do we reach out to them? How do we make sure that they have the ability to play if they want to play? So I would say just like learning is huge, but also having a lot of conversations with people internally at the Browns facility. Everyone there wants to help. They want to see the community relations and youth football departments thrive. We're so focused on giving back to the community, and that's what youth football is all about, is getting kids out playing, whether you're a boy, a girl, whether you come from the east side or the west side, it doesn't matter. We just want to get you out and playing. So the biggest piece is probably that, just building relationships and really just working as hard as you can with people inside the department that all want to see you succeed.
Now, can you go into a little bit more depth on the, you know, you have the hashtag Trailblaze Her
Yes.
that you've used within the youth football department there at the Browns. What's that all about? And how are you using something like social media and something as simple as a hashtag to help grow the platform that you've already said has grown tremendously over the last 2 years?
Yeah. So started the hashtag Trailblazer probably a little bit over a year ago. We were kind of developing our girls high school flag programming, figuring out what we wanted it to look like, and really wanted to find a way for whether you were a new team just starting out or you've been there for a couple of years, like what's one way, one hashtag that we can kind of all be inclusive, make sure everybody feels included in it. And was doing my research. The Jets did a great job of coming up with one that's called Empower Her. And I just kept trying to think of words that would relate to all these girls that are playing that have never played a sport before. It's not been an opportunity for them. And I think I literally got on synonym.com and like typed in words that were like empowering or like developing, and trailblazer popped up. And I was like, this is perfect. I'm just going to change the N to HER. And it just kind of took off. And whether it's me promoting it or men or girls high school flag football or Lake Catholic, which are two programs that have been with us since the beginning, to now having Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights and Willoughby South, like all these different programs that are now using it, all the way up to Callie Bronson, who's our assistant wide receivers coach, all using the hashtag and really just like putting all their efforts into it, has been really cool to see it take off. And I think even the Panthers have used it before down at their youth football department. So hopefully it's something that can take off league wide. And we just want to see the sport grow, whether it's here in Ohio, down in North Carolina, or down in like Florida, California. We just want to see girls play and grow. And I think that's why youth football is so special. We all come from different teams, different states, but we all want to see it grow.
I think that it's super cool. It's obviously even impacted us here at the Hall of Fame, and getting to see that firsthand is very cool. And to see how much the girls enjoy it is super, super cool to see that first person, live when they're there playing all the games. So, huge congratulations to you. I love to see it grow. Cannot wait to see what happens down the road as it continues to grow. But I want to kind of dive back into, how you prepared for your job that you have with the Browns right now. Obviously, like I said, graduated at Ashland University. You played soccer there, but you also got involved with some game day operations. And so for those students who are in college that might want to work in the NFL or work in sports in general, how important is it for those students to get involved with their athletic department, with the rec center, or something involved in sports, to help them prepare for life after school?
Yeah, I would say it's super important. Those are 4 years where you kind of have the opportunity to experience whatever you want, whether it's going into football ops or game day operations or facilities. So just try it all, figure out which one you really like, whether it's parks and recs or it's officiating. Just like put yourself out there. If you're uncomfortable having conversations and networking, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable and building those relationships, something that I had to learn along the way. But I would say another thing too is if there's a department that you're interested in, whether it's community relations, communications, media, content, reach out to people that are in those positions currently, whether it's at the college level or NFL. One thing that I did when I was in college was literally going on LinkedIn, finding different NFL teams, reaching out to people in those departments and just sending a message, hey, my name's so-and-so, really interested in what you do, would love to have a 20 to 30-minute conversation to learn more. And I probably ended up speaking with 15 to 20 people in all different types of departments that last semester of my senior year, and was able to figure out, okay, digital marketing is one thing, and I thought it was another. So it helped me figure out what I wanted to do. And on top of that, I also worked for a company called LRT Sports, which has now changed to Two-A-Day Sports. But when I was there, they focused on helping high school athletes understand the college recruiting process. And this is really my entry into sports, because before that, I didn't know it was an option. I didn't know you could play or work in the NFL or work in the NBA at a high level doing what I do now. So that helped me a ton. I got to build relationships with college coaches, even ended up having a couple of interviews talking about mental health and what it's like competing at the NFL level with a couple guys that had built relationships with, and did a mental health webinar with Brandon Marshall and a couple people over at the Hidden Opponent. So it was really cool and allowed me to get that experience in sports and then figure out, okay, this is absolutely what I want to do. I want to be able to wear joggers to work and throw the football around with kids and high schoolers and really build those relationships. So that was one thing. I was there for 2 years. Kirsten Sires is CEO, and she kind of opened that door for me, and I was able to run through it when I was ready.
Very, very cool. It sounds like the being a student athlete is one thing. I wasn't a student athlete, but going to school with a lot of friends who were, obviously when you come, and I still want to say, when someone comes into an interview and sits a resume in front of me and I see they played a college sport, you obviously know that they're organized and their time management skills are above everybody else, because it's a full-time job. Plus you're going to school. Plus, like you said, you're working the job as well, whether it's in the season or during the off season. So to find the time, that's what's important. You want to do something where you have enough time to do it. You don't want to overdo it, because, school obviously and your sport comes first, but finding the time to do that. And that's a great example right there of how it helped, open some doors for you. Got some awesome questions rolling in on our YouTube chat. So I'm going to throw it over to Nathan Martin, Youth and Education Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is going to go through all of our student questions so far.
Yeah, thank you, Jake, so much for sending it over here. And Hannah, just want to thank you for being a part of the program. I know Jake put a little bit of pressure on you. You know, the season finale. This is the last
Yeah.
program we have for this school year, but I think you're doing a great job. So we just got to see what that big cliffhanger is going to be here at the end of the season. But student questions that we have coming in. They're doing a great job. So students continue to submit questions. We'll get them involved with the program. And let's do that right now. We've got a question from Lacey, a student from the University of Tennessee. And Hannah, you've kind of already touched on it, but I think Lacey wants to know a little bit more detail. What was your college to now the NFL process like? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I, like Jake said, was a college athlete. So played for 4 years at Ashland University. Had a lot of great experiences, built a lot of memories there, and was actually kind of teetering the decision of, do I go back and take my COVID fifth year, or do I kind of start to see what my career development will look like? Made the decision that I was going to go back for my fifth year, but the Browns actually posted a summer youth football internship. And at the time, I really didn't know what it was, but figured I like football. I'm from Cleveland. I'm a huge Browns fan, and knew that regardless of what the position is, whether I have a ton of experience or not enough, like I know that I'll be the hardest worker in the room. And I really just needed to get a chance to be on a video call and just express my passion and what I wanted to do. So applied for the position. I had a good amount of experience on my resume in marketing, being a student athlete, which was super helpful, and also being in that sports space at LRT Sports and kind of working with a couple professional athletes. So ended up getting the position. And within 2 weeks, we did a couple different events, and I absolutely fell in love with working in youth football and was kind of like still figuring out if I wanted to go back to school or not. And my coach ended up calling me about 2 weeks before preseason was supposed to start. He said he wasn't going to go back to the program. He'd gotten another job as an assistant at a Division I school. And that was kind of like my calling to be like, all right, you need to pursue this full time. So I ended up not going back for my fifth year, and it turned out to be the best decision that I ever made. Got extended as a seasonal intern through the 21 season, and then got hired full time in January of 22. So that's kind of like my college to NFL experience, and I'm heading into my third season.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, it's just amazing how it all kind of worked out, and you got the call from your coach, and you're like wrestling with like, what do I do? And wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Next question we have is from a student, Tyler from Ohio State. As Jake would, emphasize to me, I got to say the Ohio State University. Tyler wants to know tips for current undergraduate or even grad students for obtaining an internship. You started with an internship. Kind of what tips would you give students when they're looking for those internships?
Yeah. So one is a platform that most NFL teams and professional teams use is Teamwork Online. So if you don't have an account already on there, I would make one. And then on top of that is just making sure your resume is super updated. I would say a lot of times too is like finding volunteer work in like whatever space you want to do, whether it's community relations, youth football, communications, just finding volunteer opportunities, even working the NFL draft or Super Bowl. There's always going to be volunteer opportunities there that you can add to your resume, that when people are going through that, it's going to kind of be like a light that goes off of, okay, they have this experience, they've done this. So I'd say that's one, making sure your resume is as updated as it can be, and really just finding opportunities for you to add some extra things to your resume that are specific to that job field that you want to go into.
You mentioned the resume and having that prepared a couple times there. Are you, Hannah? I mean, and I guess there's different opinions on this. Are you someone that says like, hey, you're a student, your resume, if it's longer than a page, it's too much? Like, are you someone that's real strict on that, or you say just let it all be on there? Where are you at with that?
I would say try and keep it to one page. If your volunteer experience or like a couple random like achievements go into like the second page, I'm not too like, I don't care too much. But I would try and keep it to one page, half onto two, but anything longer than three, it's just a lot of reading for us to do. But I'm someone that, me personally, I didn't have somebody that vouched for me to get into the NFL, or somebody that kind of made a call. I did a little bit on my own. So I'm someone that I'm going to go through all the resumes, everybody that applied for the position, just because it's like, for me, it's like the right thing to do, and I want to give everybody a fair chance. So me personally, keep it to one page. But if you've got the right people applying, they'll find your resume.
No, that's good. And I love kind of like almost feels like there's a little bit of like a chip on your shoulder. Like I didn't have someone that was able to make a call. Like I had to go earn it on my own, so I want to find more people like me.
Yeah.
That's cool. And that's got to be encouraging for our students that are watching, that are like, I don't have that connection. I don't have that network right now to know that there's people like you that are reading the resumes. And that actually leads me to the next question. This is from Dominic. And you mentioned kind of your last semester at Ashland, how you were taking the initiative, going on LinkedIn, messaging people that had interesting job titles or careers that you thought would maybe be a good fit for you. And you were able to actually get, 14, 15 different conversations.
Mhm.
And I would encourage our students to do the same type of thing that can really benefit you in building a network. But Dominic wants to know, how did you prepare for those 15, 20, 30-minute conversations? What types of questions were you asking those sport industry professionals?
Yeah. I would say one thing was doing my research on whoever I was speaking with. So whether that was going on LinkedIn or doing a quick Google search, a lot of their history would pop up. But another thing I would do, I remember speaking with a producer at the time. I really had no idea what producing was and learned that it was not what I wanted to do, but I Googled questions that would pertain to that profession, what it looked like, and really was just asking them what their job entailed, how they got into it, how long they've been with a certain team or a certain organization, just because I wanted to learn. And that's kind of how I approached it. Was I wasn't asking for a job. I wasn't asking you to make a call to help me get somewhere. It was just, I want to learn. That way I can figure out what next steps are for me, and being authentic and real in those conversations, people are naturally going to want to help you. But that would be my number one thing, is just being who you are, being authentic, being real, and people are going to naturally gravitate towards that. And just coming prepared with a couple questions that you might have that pertain to the position, and they're going to want to see what your career development is going to look like and how they could possibly help you.
Yeah, I think that's great. And like I said, I would encourage our students to, follow after you in that way. And then once you generate those connections, don't be afraid to keep those connections, every, 4 or 5 months, whatever it is, shoot another email or LinkedIn message just to stay connected with those people as you build out your network. But I know we have some more student questions. I'm going to kind of look through those and pick some of those out. So we'll definitely come back to me at least one more time so we can get more students involved. But for now, I'm going to send it back over to Jake.
Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate that. And I do want to take a little bit of thunder here from Nathan. I'm watching the YouTube chat and I saw a question and I hit a button and I accidentally hid the question. So I want to make sure, since I can see it here on my end, that I do get the question asked. So this question is from Haley. Hannah, she goes to the University of Tennessee. Got some another Tennessee question here. Would someone who does not have the experience as a student athlete or little experience with sports still be able to excel in a job within the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, me being a student athlete, I played soccer. I didn't play football or flag football or anything, and really just like learned as I went. So I pride myself on being the hardest worker in the room and learning as I go. So whether I have experience in that position or not, I'm going to be a quick learner and adapt to it. But I would say just getting that experience, that kind of like I said earlier, volunteering, finding different opportunities, at least in youth football, officiating is a massive one. So anytime I see officiating on a resume, whether it's basketball or football or volleyball, I know that you have a good understanding of the sport and you're able to learn rules pretty quickly and then adapt that. So especially if it's like a youth official, you're still teaching those kids how to play the game. So that's something that we definitely look at in the youth space. So finding volunteer opportunities that pertain to a certain department are super helpful, and you don't need to be a student athlete or have already had experience in sports to be successful in it.
I think that's a huge fact, because obviously, you look at, Nathan and I, huge football fans. In fact, we're owners of the Green Bay Packers. And so we've loved the game coming in, but there are people that work here that aren't football fans, but they're so good at their job, you can't even tell. And, when we do interviews here at the Hall of Fame with prospective staff members or interns, we ask them some basic football knowledge question, but it's not so much that's not going to be a hire or fire, strict rule on our end. It's just kind of get a grasp on how much of the game and obviously it helps, but like you said, it's nothing that's super important. If you're good at what you do, somebody's going to come find you and help them, because you can help their organization. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about some of the events that you get to do with your job as a youth football coordinator. Looking back, can you give us just a list of some of the different events that you do, whether it's camps or clinics or things like that? And what are some of your favorite events that you get to host year in and year out as part of the Browns?
Yeah. So I would say in terms of events and programs, one that I do in the fall during the Browns season is high school game of the week. So we pick 6 games and then we have a panel that votes on 4 of them. And then we let that go out to the public and communities get to vote for their high school football team to get nominated. And then the team that gets the most votes will actually go out to on Friday nights. We'll cover the game. We'll do live tweets. We'll do MVP, coach of the week, and then we end up inviting out the MVP and the coach to the next Browns home game. Get them a really cool game day experience. So they'll be on the sidelines. We'll do a cool in-game moment on the scoreboard, and they actually receive some funding as well for winning that game as part of the NFL Foundation Coach of the Week program that we do, which is really cool. So we'll cover that all through the first 10 weeks, and then we continue that program through the playoff season. And then we'll end up going to the state championships. We're actually hosted at the Hall of Fame, which was awesome. So got to see Jake down there. So those are really fun. That's one that we do in the fall. We're also increasing our flag football initiatives through the Junior Browns and NFL Flag. So working with a lot of those different programs that we have across Northeast Ohio. And then heading into off season, we do a lot of high school showcases. So I had one in March. We had about 225 high school kids come out and 25 college coaches and different types of recruiters that came out for that. So really good program, a lot of super talented kids and a lot of coaches that came in that were super helpful in teaching the kids how to run certain drills, whether you're doing the shuttle, how do you push off one foot to get to the other side faster? How do you perform on bench press? Are your hands too far out? Do they need to be closer in? Vertical jump, are you making sure that you're doing your swings beforehand? Same with broad jump. So a lot of really great coaches that come out for that. We are also doing a ton with the girls high school flag. So we had a clinic on February 25th. We had almost 300 girls out for that we hosted at Cross Country Mortgage Campus, which is in Berea. And we had 225 girls, about 50 coaches for those high school teams. So NFL Flag came in and they did an on-field clinic for those 300 girls. And then USA Football came in and did a coaches clinic to teach the rule book, to talk about different schemes and plays. So it was a super successful event. And then we did another girls youth clinic in March, end of March, actually April, which was awesome. We had about 150 girls come out for that. So it was K through 8th grade, really just got to teach them the game, how to play football, and really just watch them have fun and enjoy it and play a sport that they haven't been exposed to before. So that's just our off season within 3 months, which is really fun. And then we'll do our girls high school flag championship May 1st, which is always a blast getting to watch those girls ball out. So those are the top ones. And then I think you asked one of my favorite events that I've done.
Yeah.
So I would say one of our favorite events is we did a helmets program. We do it every single year. So we'll open it up typically during the beginning of the Browns season, and you get to go on and nominate any high school within Northeast Ohio and across Ohio as a whole. So we get to pick at random. We'll do a random number generator, and 2 high schools will win helmets. They'll get 85 free sets of Zenith helmets. So last year during training camp, James Ford Rhodes was one of the schools that won, and the team had no idea that they won. I worked with the coach to get those customized, get the decals on, and it was Anthony Walker, Jeremiah Wusu-Kormoa, and a couple other guys that drove the helmets out on golf carts right before walkthroughs of training camp the one day, and they ripped off some tarps that were on there, and the entire team just went crazy because they got to see the helmets there. They got to interact with the kids, and it was one of those moments that kind of puts tears in your eyes because it's a program that needed helmets, a community that was going to thrive off of it. So being able to see reactions like that and knowing that we got to be a small part of that joy was probably my favorite.
That's always cool to see the smiles. If you impact one life, that's a win. But to see the reaction from an entire team like that, I'm sure it had to be super special. Just got a note from Nathan. We have 6 more questions. So you've heard enough from me. I'm going to send it back over to Nathan to rip through these 6. So thank you all of the students tuning in today. We appreciate your interaction, and I cannot wait to hear what these questions are.
Yeah, thanks again, Jake. Actually, I'm going to combine 2. They're pretty similar here. One is from Owen, a student at the University of Oregon, and the other is from Sean, a student at Binghamton. I think I said that right, but I could be wrong. Sean and Owen, though, they both ask, Hannah, how would you advise students to set themselves apart in an interview, on a resume? Sean specifically said on Teamwork Online. Is it all the same advice? Is it different advice? How would you advise students in that area?
Yeah, Teamwork Online, really, it's just making sure that you're uploading a resume. And then I would also advise you guys to upload a cover letter that is specific to that position. I've gotten cover letters that I've seen that are just blank, a blanket cover letter that you're sending in, but I've also gotten cover letters where you're applying for a different job and then that gets seen on our end. So I'd advise you guys to make sure you're reading through that, making sure it's custom to that position. And then when it comes to the interview itself, make sure that you guys are coming super attentive. You've done your research. So when I ask you if you've looked at our youth football programs, what's your top initiative or top program that you've liked, and you don't have an answer, I know that you probably didn't look at the website too in depth or at all. So making sure you're doing your research. And then also asking questions. So at the end of the interview, when we go through the job description and I've asked you questions about yourself, experience, start date, make sure you come with questions for me. That way I know that you're engaged, you're super interested in the position. I'd say that's probably the two biggest things, is making sure the cover letter is specific, because we do look at that, and then also making sure that you're asking questions in that interview.
That's all great advice. I think it's the same type of advice that Jake or myself would give when students ask us. So if the three of us are saying it, then it must be true. So I encourage the students to adhere to the advice, follow the advice. Next question we have from a student. This is Kevin from Boston College, just a sophomore at BC. Kevin's curious, business major. Can you kind of give us the breakdown, Hannah? What type of opportunities are there to work in the NFL with just, I hate to say it, but I'm one of them, a generic business major?
So I'm a generic marketing major. Really didn't know that sports was something that I could do. I played it my whole life. I played all different types of sports and wanted to see what that would look like at a high level, and was exposed to it my junior year of college. But I'm trying to think. I would say, will you restate the question for me?
Yeah, just like with a business degree, like what types of things would be available to a student with that degree when they're thinking about working in sports?
Okay. I would say really anything is going to be available to you, as long as you have a degree and you've got experience that matches it, whether that maybe you're a PT major and you want to go into sports. As long as you have experience that applies to that job that you're applying for, we're not going to look too closely at your major. You might have a little bit of coursework that applies to it, you might not, but if you've got experience and you've worked hands-on in that department or in that field, you're still going to be up for consideration for that.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I think when I'm talking to students, yes, we want you to do well in your coursework. It's important, but Hannah said it multiple times, their experience. So whatever ways that you can find that experience, whether it's helping at a high school, it's helping your college, it is an internship. Like, you want to put as much experience, relevant experience on that resume, so that you can stand out and hopefully get that opportunity that you're looking for. And with a business degree, I mean, really your opportunities are just so open-ended, because then it's just trying to find that job where you can hone it in. So next question we have is from Judson, Tennessee, University of Tennessee. They got a lot of volunteers on here today watching the program. Judson wants to know, and I like this question, is there anything when you look back, Hannah, it's not that long ago, undergrad, that you wish you had done differently or maybe started sooner, that you could encourage our students while they're still there in undergrad, that maybe they could pick up and start doing?
Yeah, I think for me it's a little different because I was a student athlete and didn't have a ton of free time to do internships, or if there were internships in the summer, it was hard for me because I didn't end school till May, but had to be back for training camp in late July. So for me, I had to find internships that fit those perfect summer months, on top of, trying to find time for me to go on family vacation or just like take some time for me. But I would say, if you're first starting out in college, you're a freshman and sophomore, maybe even a junior, just finding internships for the summer that maybe start in May and go through August, and maybe you come back to school and you're doing online classes for those first 2 weeks. That way you're still able to get that relevant experience. And I would say one thing now working at the Browns is training camp is huge. all teams are looking for interns for the summer to help out with that. And it's a great resume builder. It's great experience and opportunity for you to network with all different types of departments while you're there, because it is all hands on deck. You're working with so many different teams within that building. And I would say that's definitely one that I've seen a lot of people start as a training camp intern and now thrive in whatever position they're in.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think it's something that hopefully our students can kind of apply to their own walks as they're trying to get into the sport industry, the sport world, the NFL. Next question is from Sam, Ohio State student. Sam actually said the Trailblaze Her hashtag is, and I quote, sick. I love that. So that's what Sam said about that. But Sam's question is, you talked a lot about your experience where you were talking to people through LinkedIn, and even now, like Sam's like, relationships sound like so important. So what strategies do you have, Hannah, to build these relationships, to build that network?
Yeah. I will say one thing that my supervisor, when I was hired as an intern, said: you can network and know everybody in the building, but if you can't do your job at a high level and be a hard worker, then you can network and know everybody on your way out, because you won't be there very long. So I would say for me is I always put my head down and did the work and built those relationships like really organically and authentically. And I wasn't trying to put myself out there and be super self-promoting. It was, when I met you, just was being myself. So I would say, don't try and be somebody that you're not when you're networking, because if you're a good worker and you know what you're doing and you're always going to continue to learn, you're going to thrive in that environment. And people that are networking and maybe don't have that work ethic or the ability to function at a high level, they might not thrive as well. So I would say just like being authentic and being real and who you are is something that's worked really well for me. And I think it's going to work for anybody else that wants to get into the sports industry.
Yeah, without question, that sounds similar to the approach I took when I was an intern here at the Hall of Fame. And it reminds me, actually, last week we had Kai Harley from the New Orleans Saints. And he used to quote, I'll probably butcher the quote, but he was given the advice, you work on your job from 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 9, you work on your career, you build your network. And he's like, if you're not doing your job from 9 to 5, like you kind of were, the advice you got, like, cool, you know everyone's name when you get to leave because you're not good at your job. So I think it's important for our students to kind of see both sides of it. Yes, you want to be personable and build relationships and build that network, but first and foremost, you got to be good at your job.
Yeah.
And that's what will keep you there. So hopefully they can pull something from that. I think that was really good advice that you were giving there. The last student question I have right now, again, I love the participation we've had from our students. I want to encourage our students. If you got more questions, Jake will throw it right back to me. But the last one I have right now is from Cole, a student from UMass up in Boston. And Cole is like, kind of, this is my personality too. Like, what if you're nervous about networking? How do you get over that hump, that awkwardness, to kind of just embrace this process that's part of trying to work in and around the NFL with building a network?
Yeah, I would say for me, it was definitely weird. Me and Jake went to a very small school with about 2,500 kids. So there wasn't a huge network of alumni that were kind of reaching out to you that you could reach out to. So you did have to do a lot of it on your own. But I would say, kind of like I did, reaching out on LinkedIn and just having those conversations and asking people about their jobs, you're naturally going to have little things or things in common with that person that you can build off of. But not trying to force it too much, but having those conversations, learning about other jobs, naturally things are going to come up that you can kind of relate to and build off of. And I would say you just kind of have to put yourself in that uncomfortable position and, try and stay calm during it. I know you can get a little bit nervous. I was even a little bit nervous getting on here. There's a ton of people. I don't even know how many people are on here watching, but really just kind of putting yourself out there, and good things are going to come from it.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And hopefully encouraging for a student like Cole, who's sitting there and maybe a little bit nervous about that, and just trying to find that commonality, something that you can relate to that individual, and then let it just become a conversation.
Yeah.
Once it becomes a conversation, the nerves go away, and hopefully, Hannah, you feel like this is a conversation and you're not nervous anymore talking to myself and Jake.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm all
that's
good.
good. That's all I have right now from students. We still got 10, 15 minutes or so. So if you have more questions, go ahead, submit those. I'm sure Jake will throw it back, but if not, I want to just thank you, Hannah, for being on the program, for answering all these student questions today. And Jake, it's all yours now, dude.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate that. Again, students, some awesome questions that we've had. Thanks for sending those in. If you do have some last second ones, don't be afraid to post those as well. We'll try our best, as Nathan said, to get those in as part of the program. Hannah, I want to talk to you a little bit about the game of football. Obviously being an athlete growing up, you know how important sports are. But just as you guys probably are at the Cleveland Browns, we're here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame are unapologetically football, and we think it's the best and the greatest sport that can teach so many life lessons. So for somebody who's ingrained in it like you are, who sees it at the youth level and the professional level, how important is the game of football for those who watch it, play it, coach it? And what are those life lessons that you see taken away from the game that people apply to their everyday lives?
Yeah, absolutely love football. Grew up watching it, and to now work in it is a really cool environment to be out in the community, but also be there on game days and see it at a super high level. But I would say number one is character building. You're going to learn a lot of lessons. You're going to have a lot of highs and lows in football, but those coaches that are impacting you from that Pee Wee youth level up to high school, college level, they're forever going to change your life and alter the course of it. So I would say one is character building, and two would be work ethic. And three, I would just say being able to, I don't know if I would have a three, but I would say character and work ethic are like the two big ones. And everything in your life is going to stem from those two.
And like you said, right there, everything from your life, that makes you a great athlete, but it makes you a great student, great member of your family, great person in the community, and, truly a great employee of the organization that you're with as well. Earlier we asked you, what your favorite event was to help work and create and, be involved with. But I want to kind of take a broader step back and, talk a little bit about your experience with the Cleveland Browns. Working in sports gives us the fortunate ability to be a part of some really cool events and moments that not a lot of people get to be a part of. So, looking back on your time with the Browns, you're retired at the end of your career. You're looking back on all the things you've gotten to be a part of up to this point. What is that moment for you? What is that moment on the field you saw in a practice you were a part of as a game that kind of make you take a step back and go, that was actually kind of cool to be a part of that? What would that moment be for you so far?
I don't know if there's one specific moment, but I think the relationship building that I have with coaches, parents, athletes, that's the most special part. The fact that I have coaches that text me on New Year's Eve saying Happy New Year, or text me on Christmas, or Thanksgiving, or pretty much any holiday. Like, I'll get coaches that will text me that will even text me on my birthday or call me just to catch up. We have one of our youth football camp coaches that will randomly call me at 7 a.m. in the morning because they know I'm up and they just want to see how I'm doing. So I would say it's like the relationships that you get to build. I don't know if I'll ever be able to look back on specific events because they all mean something special and something different to me, but those relationships are like, you can't even compare them. So I would say that's what I'll look back on and know that I did the best that I could and hopefully left it better than I found it.
Perfect. And, looking at your career, you obviously talked about all the things that you've gotten to be a part of, events you helped with, and that special bond that you grow, like you just said. But, you're not, once you get into the NFL, you get to a full-time job. That's not the last day that you quit learning. There's so much you can do day in and day out to make yourself the best employee that you can be. So how does Hannah Lee do that? How do you come into the facility every day and make sure you're the best employee that you can be? Are there YouTube videos you're watching? Are you going to seminars? Are you reading books? Are you just making sure you're staying up to date on the latest trends and things that most benefits you in your job? What are some of the things you do to make sure you're being the best employee that you can be?
Yeah, I would say one is I always come into work with a smile on my face and a good attitude, because for me, it's not really work. I just get to live one of my passions every single day, being around football and working in the NFL. It's a dream come true that I'm sure a lot of people on here want to do, and you'll have the ability to do it. You just have to be able to put yourself out there. But I would say really just having conversations with coaches, teachers, parents, and kids when I'm out at events. Like, what are the needs that they have? How can I help being at the Browns? What are some ways that we can help support you? Are there equipment needs that you have? Do you have cleats that you need for your kids? I was telling Jake and Nathan before we got on the call, we had a huge equipment giveaway yesterday. We gave away almost 800 pairs of cleats. And those are just off of relationships that I've built. I know that there's certain needs in communities and people have sent in requests. So being able to do things like that, just based off conversation, learning about what the coaches need, I'm able to give back in those ways. So just always having conversations, always seeing how we can help, are the ways that I probably stay the most up to date on how I can do my job at a high level and how I can do it better. But also communicating with other NFL teams. There's some programs that do 11-ons. There's some that have girls high school flag at a really high level that I want to get to. So learning from those other NFL teams too, because we all want to help each other, allows me to be the best version of myself and continue to kind of thread the needle a little bit, and just do the best job that I can.
Now, we've obviously seen a huge change here over the past 10, 15 years. Obviously, NFL is a male-dominated industry. It still is. It will be for a while, but there's been so much, women's influence in the game of football. You look at Cleveland alone, and the influence that females have had in that organization. Coming into the NFL, in your shoes, what was that experience like for you? Being a female in such a male-dominated industry.
Yeah. So I grew up playing sports. So I was always around different types of athletes. But when I came in, youth football is a lot of camps and clinics and being outside and around all different types of coaches. And I didn't really realize it. I was just doing my job and trying to do the best that I could. And I think there was probably a point midsummer that I realized I'm one of the only females out here. Every once in a while I'd run into like a team mom or someone that worked in football, but it was very, very male dominated. Did not see a bunch of females out there. But for me, it wasn't discouraging because when you walk into the building, you've got women in pretty much every department, that are really that's why we kind of came up with the Trailblazer hashtag, is you've got women that are really blazing a trail for the next generation. And one thing that I always try and say is pull as you climb. So continue to thread the needle, continue to pave a way for yourself, but pull up that next generation as you go. But I would say within the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of females in really high roles, whether it's in the football side or the front office. But I think it's coming, and it's gonna be really cool to watch.
Did you have somebody you looked up to, a mentor or somebody that maybe was a female who had an impact in the NFL, or any sport for that matter, where you were growing up or in college that you wanted to, model yourself after, or, kind of saw that person as a trailblazer, for you to get a career in the NFL?
Yeah. Honestly, there wasn't anybody that I looked at and said that I wanted to be. I kind of wanted to make a name for myself and build my own journey and my own experience. But working at the Browns, obviously Callie Brownson is a massive trailblazer at that team, and being able to build a relationship with her and have her come out for events. She's someone that is always pushing for women and girls to succeed in that sport and giving them an opportunity to play. So having that relationship with her, I've seen the landscape that she's done in Northeast Ohio and across the country, and it's been really awesome to watch. And she's somebody that I kind of model the way I pull the next generation along. So someone that I can kind of lean on or ask questions to has been really awesome.
Awesome. I got time for a few more questions here. And before we wrap up, I want to do our rapid fire segment that we've done every week so far this school year. Really excited to hear the answers today. That we've had them from all over the map. So we got 6 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. First one, LinkedIn, great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way to network.
Number 2, GPA on a resume, leave it off or keep it on?
Leave it off.
Number 3, social media accounts, public or private?
Public.
Number 4, and you referenced this earlier, jeans or joggers at work?
Joggers.
All day, every day, just on Fridays or never?
Depends on events.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Coin toss, heads or tails?
Tails.
And then finally, score a touchdown. What's the go-to touchdown celebration?
I think I would spin the ball and do a little fire over it. Yeah.
We've had that one. We've had a lot of the gritty has been a popular answer as well throughout the years. So just a cool little segment we want to add in, related to careers a little bit, but also related to the game we love so much. Hannah, first, before I get to my last question here, just want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Could not think of anybody better to wrap up this school year with this, as Nathan said, the season finale of the program this year. So thank you so much for giving time out of your busy schedule to be a part of the program. And with that, my last question, and this is the question we always wrap every program up with. There's been so many little tips and tricks and nuggets of information here today. But if all of the students watching, it sounds like all of the University of Tennessee is tuned in right now. What is that last piece of information, that one thing you want them to remember? If they don't remember anything else, this is the one piece of advice you want them to walk out the door with.
I would say when you get your opportunity and somebody knocks on the door, take it and be the hardest worker in the room, and good things are going to come from that.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up not only this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fames Before the Snap series, but this season of our Before the Snap series. We're at, I think we counted today, we're like 75 episodes since we started. So we can't thank all of our participants enough. I added it up while we were sitting here. We've had just this year, we've had folks participate from the CAA, ESPN, right here at the Hall of Fame Village, the Vikings, Browns, Titans, Eagles, Saints, Rams, Chargers, Steelers, and Packers. So to all of our guests, everybody who participated, thank you so much. And Hannah, same goes to you. Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Truly, thank you for everything you do for the game of football, and, out of everybody, everything that you do for us here in Canton at the Hall of Fame.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys for having me. Hopefully I was able to pass on some words of wisdom, and I look forward to working with you guys at a high level in the NFL, because I know it's coming.
Hey, we echo the same thing here. As always, before we leave, especially now with this being the last one, thank you so much again to all of our students who tuned in and all the great questions that were asked this year. To stay up to date with everything Pro Football Hall of Fame, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all of the social media channels. Same with the Cleveland Browns and all the great things they're doing in their team and in the community. If you're a podcast listener, we have an awesome podcast here called The Mission, hosted by our great friend and Before the Snap guest as well, Jameer Howerton. So make sure you're tuned into that, subscribe to hear all the great interviews coming out of Canton. Normally we announce what program we're going to have next, but we truly don't know, as the next one's going to be in September, October. So again, Hannah, Nathan, everybody, thank you so much for everything that everybody does for this program. And truly, thanks for being a part of the program today. So to all of our guests, again, thank you so much for tuning in here today. Thank you for tuning in all year. And with that, we're going to sign off for the last time here this school year. And we hope you tune in next school year. Go on to YouTube, watch all the great clips that we have from this program. And we hope to see